Are the administrators for this district also going to follow this policy? Like the superintendent, director of curriculum, all y'all in your cozy offices, are you going to follow this policy? If you miss 3 days, is there going to be a plan put in place for you to make sure you come to work? That sounds fair to me. Why should it be any different if someone who's 12 gets the flu versus if the superintendent gets the flu? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you for stopping by. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Today, we are actually leaving Ohio. Finally, we're getting out of the state of Ohio and going all the way down south to Tennessee, where if you have a child in the Lawrence County School District, they are no longer accepting doctor's notes for an excused absence. This is a real thing too, by the way. I'm not exaggerating. I'm sure the title sounds like clickbait. It's not. This is an actual thing. So let's look into it.
A local school district says doctor's notes will no longer excuse your child's absence. Lawrence County Schools says they're just trying to address the district's low attendance rate.
Our Courtney Allen found many parents are against it.
Some parents believe this new policy will force families to send their sick children to school out of fear of being sent to court. Rebecca Sanchez says her 10-year-old daughter got sick a lot last school year.
Between the strep and the flu, I can say she missed about 17 days.
But if she is absent for even half of that time this coming school year, it'll now result in a referral to Lawrence County Juvenile Court for truancy.
So before we even dive any further into this, Lawrence County School District, they're not only saying that they don't care about students, they don't care about anyone who is in the school building, from a student to any staff member, whether it's a teacher, a custodian, a lunch lady, even the principal. Like, they don't care, because this lady just went and told you that her daughter missed 17 days, which sounds like a lot, but she had strep, she had the flu, she had different illnesses, and she had doctor's notes apparently that excused all of these. So she did go see a doctor, so it's not like she's lying. She's not lying. She can't be. The doctor diagnosed her as this, and I'm assuming that she went to the doctor. And they're saying that if you have a doctor's note, even though you went to the doctor, that doesn't excuse your absence. So what are you saying? That someone with the flu or strep has to come to school? Do you not care about anyone in the building? Did we not just go through COVID like 5 years ago? Like, why are we acting like that didn't happen? But Lawrence County District does not care about you or your health or the health of your child. So you better show up.
Under Lawrence County school system's new attendance policy, doctor's notes will no longer excuse an absence. Students will now just be marked absent or present. The policy states at 3 absences, schools will start intervention. If the student keeps missing school 8 or more days, there will be a juvenile court referral.
3 days for intervention is a little ridiculous to me. You can miss 3 days for a variety of things. Like, even having the cold, depending on how bad it is, you can miss for that. COVID, people still get that. You can miss more than 3 days for that. So they want to do an intervention. What's the intervention plan going to say? Don't get sick. So if you have not been to my channel, I am a former teacher. I didn't teach last year, and I'm also not looking to teach this year. I don't know if I'm going back ever, but just know that I've taught for 10 years. And 3 days, 3 absences, it's not enough absences to warrant an intervention. Think about how many days you miss during the working year where you're sick, right? And if you're sick, they usually don't want you to go to work, especially depending on what you do. Like, let's say you work in food. I don't want someone who has the flu or strep or COVID fixing my food. What is wrong with you? I don't want you touching the silverware. I don't want you touching the plates. I don't want you touching me. Don't touch my booth. Go home. Get better. That's what I would like you to do. This district is basically teaching that being sick is not a good enough reason not to show up. So if being sick and trying to get better is not a good reason to take off from school, and to me, I think they're trying to imply it's not a good reason to take off from work, then what is? And here's my other question. Are the administrators for this district also going to follow this policy? Like the superintendent, director of curriculum, all y'all in your cozy offices, are you going to follow this policy? If you miss 3 days, is there going to be a plan put in place for you to make sure you come to work? That sounds fair to me. Why should it be any different if someone who's 12 gets the flu versus if the superintendent gets the flu? I like this is such a ridiculous. I honestly don't really even feel like I wanted to make this like a funny video because I actually have not watched this news broadcast, but I'm having a hard time finishing this because it's actually starting to make me mad the more I think about it. That you are going to claim a student is truant, and then at 8 days you're going to send them to juvenile court for being sick. 8 days, 8 days contractually. I work 184 days. I think the most I've worked contractually is 184, and I think the lowest amount in my contract, the district I was at, I want to say it was like 182. But I honestly, what is 3 days gonna do? Especially if they're spread out. What is missing 3 days going to actually do to anybody who is missing school? And they say that they're trying to tackle the high absentee issue, but so your solution is if you have the flu, we want you to come to school and give it to everybody else. That way more people are out.
You could end up failing the grade. You could fail the course. You're going to be petitioned to court. You're not going to participate in graduation, get your driver's license permit.
While there will be exemptions for verified chronic illnesses and several other things, Director of Schools Michael Adkins and other district officials said in June's school board meeting that students need to learn reliability and work ethic.
And if you got the sniffles, that's fine. You're going to have them when you go to work one day. We've all gone to work sick and hurt and beat up.
I want to know how many days he missed of work. And I want to know if they were for illnesses or if they were just because he didn't feel like showing up, because he had vacations, whatever. I want to know how many days he did not show up to his job. If he's going to hold students and families to this ridiculous policy, and it's ridiculous, he should not be allowed to take days off for anything. I don't care if it's the flu. I don't care if he has strep. I don't care if he's in the hospital because he had a car accident. Because honestly, according to this policy, something like that, yeah, that's not an excuse from a doctor's note. If you've ever been into a car accident, they recommend that you go to the hospital or go see a doctor right afterwards. I was in 3. Now, I was a teenager each time. We're not going to get into that. But if you want to know, no, I was not at fault for any of them. But each time they recommended I go to the doctor or the hospital to get checked out. And 2 of those times I did. One I didn't because it was just a fender bender. So according to this policy, me getting into a car accident, needing to go see a doctor is not going to be excused. It won't be an excuse absent. It has to be approved by them. But you're not medical professionals. So how in the happy hell can you approve my doctor's note? My doctor has more education than you do. They went through a bachelor's degree. They went through a medical degree. They did their residency. They know what they're talking about, what they're doing. They don't need a superintendent in their little itty bitty school board telling me if their doctor's note is okay. This is crazy work. This is completely stupid. This is stupid. And they're saying that they want to teach good work ethic. This doesn't teach good work ethic. This teaches kids that if you get sick, then you will lose your job. If you get sick, you will not be able to provide for your family. If you get sick when you're older at work, you're going to lose your house. That's what this is teaching. And it shouldn't teach that because that's not true. People miss work all the time for being sick. I missed work several times to go to the doctor's office when I was pregnant. Not because I was sick, but because I was pregnant. And so I had to do certain doctor's appointments. And I had to go see my doctor for ultrasounds. I had to go see them for the blood glucose test. We went to go see the doctor for just to make sure that my child was growing properly, anything like that. And they're basically saying that that's not acceptable unless the district deems it a worthy reason to be out. But how can you as a non-medical professional do that?
The district sent this letter to local medical providers last week, asking them to, quote, emphasize the importance of regular school attendance while treating school-aged patients.
No, that is not the job of a doctor. The job of a doctor is to diagnose your child and make sure that they are okay and they walk out the doors healthy. That is the point of a doctor. That's what they do. That it's not their job to tell them it's important to go to school. I think everyone knows that it's important to go to school. And quite honestly, there's only so... We have to start accepting, honestly, that there's only so much schools and teachers and administrators, even the superintendent, even this one in this school district and the ridiculous policy on doctor's notes. We have to start accepting that you can't control what families do. I have kids that take vacations in the middle of the year because that's when their parent, for example, is allowed to take a vacation because that's when their job says that they can. Not everyone can go on vacation in the middle of summer. So according to this district, if you want to go on vacation with your kid in the middle of the year because that's what your job allows you to do it, they're going to punish your kid for doing it too. Now I know that has nothing to do with doctor's notes. I understand that, but their policy is if you miss 8 days or more, they're going to try to take you to court over it. 8 days. Why? Like why? Schools can only do so much about making sure kids show up. And we have a lot of policies and laws in place that hold districts accountable if they have kids that don't come. And a lot of the time, it's not the child's fault when they can't come. I can attest as an educator, it usually is not the fault of the student. I very rarely have kids that have skipped whole days of school, whole classes, and their parents didn't know where they were. That has very rarely happened. I have taught in high absentee, I've taught in districts that have had a high absentee count where kids didn't come. But a lot of these kids, they have issues at home. They have chronic illnesses. And I know the district said that they make an exception, but I'm sure when we get to the broadcast, I'm sure there's some stupid form they had to sign over their HIPAA rights. I don't know if that's true, but that's the only way I can think that they would even be able to verify that they had to tell the district, yeah, you can get on my medical business. But they had chronic illnesses. I've had kids that were homeless. I've had kids that like their parents lost their job and just literally couldn't get them to school because the district didn't offer busing and because the parent can't afford to drive them to school, that now they can't get there. So there's so many reasons why kids are absent other than they have the freaking sniffles. And the fact that someone like this said that we gotta accept that you can't, like if you have the sniffles, look, it's not up to you to determine if they have the sniffles or not. The doctor's note will tell you if something is wrong with them and if they have an excuse absence. They're the medical professional, not you. This district is giving American politician really bad. And if you don't know what I mean by that, let's put it this way. There was a politician in the state of Ohio. Yes, we're going back to Ohio. There was a politician in the state of Ohio a few years ago. And if I can find the article, I will put it in my description box below because this is a real thing, who wanted to make it illegal to abort an ectopic pregnancy. If you don't know what that is, that means that the egg that got fertilized did not implant in the uterus, it implanted in the fallopian tube. This is a life-threatening condition. And he wanted to tell doctors that you had to take the egg out and then implant it into the uterus manually. And the doctors had to tell you can't do that because it's physically not possible. You're going to kill women because we won't be allowed to take it out. You're going to cost them their fallopian tube, you're going to cost them their ovary. It's going to hurt them in terms of trying to have kids in the future if they choose to do so again. You cannot make this a law. And did this policy come back and apologize? Yeah, sure. Don't particularly care. But again, this is what happens when you allow people that are not medical professionals to make stupid decisions like this. That almost became a law in Ohio. And now you got this district out here in Tennessee trying to tell kids that I'm going to tell you if you're sick or not the doctor. The doctor's going to convince me that your illness is worthy whether or not you should come to school. And I'm going to risk not only your health, I'm going to risk everyone's health in the classroom that you sit in the cafeteria that you eat in the stadium that you play football, soccer, whatever in. I'm going to risk the coaches, I'm going to risk the teachers, I'm going to risk my administrators because absences. I really am having a hard time believing that an educated person is backing this in any capacity. This is completely stupid and ridiculous.
If a child goes to school sick and the school nurse sends that child home, Adkins said it will be marked as a tardy.
Did he just say that the nurse sends you home early because you're sick is a tardy? So a school nurse is more qualified to tell you if a kid is sick than an actual doctor? Not knocking school nurses. They do have nursing certificates and degrees. They went to the same nursing schools that you would run into a nurse like at a hospital or a doctor's office with. They have the same degree. I'm not knocking that. But correct me if I'm wrong, I thought nurses couldn't make any type of diagnosis like that. Isn't that like a doctor thing? So why is it that a nurse at a school is more qualified to tell you if this is a true illness than a doctor is? While you try to find an answer to that, we're going to finish watching this news clip.
And how does that make sense? As a parent, how can we give someone else the rights to say what's wrong with their child?
We reached out to several local districts about their attendance policies. Metro, Rutherford, Wilson, Williamson, and Clarksville Montgomery County schools all told us they accept doctor's notes to excuse absences.
Put your kids' health first, right?
Back in Lawrence County, Sanchez and several other parents upset over the policy.
How did this get passed?
I'm going to tell you how it passed. It passed because people don't go to school board meetings. School board meetings are typically held at least once a month, and they might be held more depending on where your kid goes and where you live. I know where I live, they hold them more than once a month. And not all of them have public comment, some do. But you need to go to school board meetings. Because I guarantee you this one has been talked about several times. It was probably talked about several times, or at least mentioned a couple times before it passed. And they probably allowed public comment and nobody commented on it because nobody was there. That's my guess. But yeah, you can show the school board meetings and voice your opinion and your concern. Now, can the school board still ignore you? Sure, they can. A lot of school boards ignored parents during COVID when they wanted kids to go back to school, and the board said no. We're in a pandemic, Susan. That will not be happening. But this is such a stupid policy. Because I'll never probably teach in Tennessee. I don't really care about saying it out loud. This is a dumb policy that takes nobody in consideration. And I think the superintendent is ridiculous for even backing this. And so is his little board buddies. They're all ridiculous backing this. You're saying that you're not really even tackling the reason why they're absent. What you're doing is you're just not excusing it anymore. But I need you to tell me why you think that would convince someone to send their kid to school even though they're sick. So you want to instill panic in parents and family because they don't want to go to court and have to take days off and risk getting fines and fees and all this other stuff. You are going to weaponize that to make them send their kid to school even though their kid isn't healthy. Like, I don't see how anyone who sat in that room and voted for this could call themselves an educator. I don't see how you can say you care about kids. You don't. If you don't care about kids, you definitely don't care about the staff. So we're not going to get into that. And I don't see how you even say you care about schools, you care about learning. Because last time I checked, when I had the flu, when I was a kid, I was not concerned about state test scores. I was not concerned about turning my work in. I was not concerned about essay writing. And quite honestly, neither were my teachers. They wanted me to get better. And I got extensions to get stuff done. That's what happened when I was a kid. Now, I never had chronic absenteeism because I happened to be very blessed with a family that emphasized education. And I never had chronic illnesses. And my parents had jobs where when they did have vacation time, they were allowed to take it in the summer. Not everyone has that. I'm very fortunate to have that. But for you to weaponize kids getting sick and say, well, I don't care if you're sick because if you don't show up, I'm going to send you to court. Whoever voted for this policy, you can't have a soul because this is just completely stupid. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think I'm overreacting? I don't think I am, but I would love to know if you think I am. And I would like to hear what you think about this policy. What do you think about the superintendent? Do you think he should be held to the same standard where he can't take more than 3 days off or else he gets an improvement plan? Because by the way, they do those. They do those for teachers and principals. I think we should do those for superintendents if they haven't started. But leave a like, a comment, and I will see you in the next video.